All right, so as you heard before, hi everyone, I'm Irene and this is my co-host Julie, somewhere on the screen somewhere. And thank you for having us here today. I just want to say that I spent about only 5 of my adult years volunteering with different nonprofits, different climate groups, but I'm always really impressed with the consistent and impactful efforts of the Rotary. And I'm really glad to be here to speak today. And I'm really thankful not for your just direct actions, but also for attending today to, just learn more about different ideas and starting a dialogue today with myself and Julie. So I wanted to let you know we're not just here to talk to you, talk at you for 45 minutes. We're actually here to understand, what people think can and should be done to mitigate climate change. So I want to get straight into things and start with a quick poll. Where are people on climate change? Let's see. A poll
You
should
want me to
pop
run
up.
the poll?
Yes,
There it is.
please. Okay, thank you. All right, cool. All right, getting a lot of responses. All right, cool. I think we can close the poll now. So it seems like, all right, so it seems like most of us here are concerned to alarmed about climate change, which is good because you are the climate action team. I kind of hope for that response. But you are not alone. In fact, in 2019, there was a Yale climate communication study which showed that over 70% of Americans currently are concerned to alarmed about climate change. And I'm sure you all have noticed it too. It really does feel like people everywhere are waking up to the idea that, this earth thing, it's getting kind of hot. Maybe we should do something about that. And from taking a long time and talking to longtime climate advocates, it really does seem like it's been a very long uphill climb for a really long time. But I think now with largely changing attitudes and, in fact, a renewed interest in civic action, there is hope. And I feel that hope very deeply because, as John said, for a long time before as a climate advocate, I was not even like skeptical, I was just clueless. Mainly because I was born and raised in Houston, Texas, the oil and gas capital of the US. And when I tell people that, most people imagine my childhood looked something like this: riding my horse to school through the desert, the 10-gallon hat on. But in reality, Houston's built on a giant swamp, and my childhood looked more like this. So, growing up, one of my favorite things to do every summer was playing in the flooded streets outside my house. Of course, I was able to totally ignore my parents getting freaked out every hurricane season and how many people were losing their homes to these 1,000-year floods. And it wasn't until I got to college in California that I realized that swimming outside the window of a car wasn't a teenage rite of passage. And over time, I became more and more aware of climate change and the effect that we all have on this planet. I became more personally responsible, as we all might have done. I rode my bike to work, I recycled everything, I gave up meat, delicious, delicious meat. And honestly, I still believe that individual actions are the cornerstones to change. But is that enough? These are pictures of climate protests all around the world in 2019. People everywhere are demanding action on climate change. And I really think it's thanks to all these voices rising up in protest that climate change is now being seen as a serious public policy issue. So I first heard about the idea of carbon pricing on a podcast, Planet Money to be exact, and it just clicked with me. All of us here can agree on the negative effects of carbon pollution: smog, flooding, this. We're all paying the price with our health and livelihoods. So why not capture those negative externalities in money? Carbon pricing curbs carbon pollution by putting a real dollar cost on the negative effects of climate change we already all feel. Price all of the gas, the crude, the oil sands, all of that stuff right at the source of extraction. Basically, make carbon cost more and people use less of it. It's an economic idea not only supported by thousands of economists and politicians globally, including our own Secretary of Treasury, Janet Yellen, but also the US Chamber of Commerce, Exxon, I know, and also the Audubon Society. But, it's also an idea that can be simply understood by people like me who aren't Nobel laureate economists. And that can go a long way in gaining public support. Moreover, countries around the world have also implemented some form of carbon pricing, including Canada, whose successful carbon fee policy was actually the subject of the first podcast I talked about. So carbon fee is just one part of the solution. The second, and what I think is actually more important, is what to do with the revenue. Any policy in the US can't just be effective. It also has to be accepted by the people. I'm going to pass things over to Julie, who has a couple of ideas about what to do with the revenue. Julie?
Yeah, so thank you very much, Irene. So as Irene showed us, a carbon tax is the best solution we have to curb quickly and efficiently our emissions and meet the US carbon neutrality target by 2050. However, to be implemented successfully, it needs the buy-in from everyone, from the American people. So as you may be able to tell from my accent, I grew up in France. And in France, in 2018-19, the government tried to pass a carbon tax. And this triggered the Yellow Vest movement. The reason for that is because people perceived the carbon tax as unfair because they didn't know what would be done with the money collected. So what do we do with the revenue of this tax? And so this is where we'd like to pick your brain. I'm going to walk you through 6 different options. Then we will run 2 polls. The first one to collect your personal preference when it comes to what should we do with the revenue. And the second one to know, according to you, which option would ensure buy-in from the public opinion, from everyone. So let's get started. And as I present the different options, please feel free to put in the chat what you think of each option or which option you prefer and why. So the first option consists in funding clean energy innovation. So this would translate in driving the adoption of renewable energy, energy storage, carbon capture technologies, all innovations like that. So next slide, please, Irene. Awesome. So the second option would consist in funding green infrastructure. So by that, it could be boost the development of high-speed railways or support the adoption of clean means of transportation, such as electric vehicles or such as charging stations, or even push people to use maybe bike to commute on short distances, for instance. So next slide, please, Irene. Oh, yeah, one before, sorry. Yeah, so the third option would be remedying environmental and climate injustice. So often people with low income will end up living in polluted environments where rent or real estate may be cheaper. So for instance, near a coal power plant. And so revenues could be used to clean up locally the environment. The fourth option would be paying down public debt. So today, the US public debt stands at $28 trillion, which is roughly equivalent to $250,000 per US household that we pass on to our children and grandchildren. So we could use the part of the revenue to start paying down the public debt. The fifth option would be to reduce personal and corporate taxes, which would make this carbon tax a revenue neutral option. And finally, the sixth option is to return monthly dividend checks to each citizen. So to be transparent, this is also the option that we at CCL support, because we believe that it would make this policy affordable for all Americans by putting money back in their pocket. And the government would not keep any money of this tax. And so we estimated that it would be roughly maybe around like $65 per household. So now that I've walked you through the 6 options, we may let that sink in. And so before launching the poll, every one of you probably has an opinion on which option is best. So of course, you don't have to be a climate expert to weigh in, because at the end of the day, it's what people like you and me think that really matters. Yeah, yeah, perfect. Okay, so we can see that we have 48%, so nearly the half of you would go for funding clean energy innovation, so support the development of renewables, etc. And followed very closely by invest in green infrastructure. So that's an interesting why one. Do you all want to be able to get a Tesla to drive without emission on roads, maybe? And then remedy. And the third one being return monthly dividends checks to citizens. So that's and the fourth one being remedy climate and environmental injustice. So that's a very interesting spread of the answers. Thanks a lot for sharing your personal opinion. And so now I suggest we move on to the second one, being which one do you think would secure public buy-in? Because in order for the carbon tax to be a success, we need everyone committed to that and all to agreeing to this tax to avoid other unrest like what happened to France. So this second poll is about which option do you think would secure largely public opinion? Okay, so in terms of results, we can see that the most popular opinion is invest in green infrastructure to secure public buy-in, followed by return monthly dividend checks to citizens, because I guess we prefer to see money, like you can see better revenue in your pocket rather than on the highways, followed by fund clean energy innovation. So we keep the 3 most popular opinion, except in a different order to secure public buy-in. That's an interesting one. Okay, great. Well, thanks a lot, everyone, for sharing your opinion with us. It really matters. And so now back to Irene for our call to action.
So it really seems that we have policies we like. It may not be the same for everybody. We all have differing ideas. Do we want investment in green technology? Do we want to check back? Whatever your ideas, you need to let your representatives know. Your local, state, national representatives should be working for you. They're working for us. I call my rep, Ro Khanna, each month to let him know that I support carbon fee and dividend. It literally takes less than 5 minutes. He must have my name on a list somewhere saying this girl really likes carbon fee and dividend. And while it's important to also let your representatives know, I think it's also important to let the people around you know your ideas as well. Use your network. The Rotary Club is specifically pretty interesting to me because I feel like you have a very wide network. People in the Rotary have a very wide network of people with a lot of influence. So spreading your ideas, just like Julie and I did when we came here today, spreading new ideas, starting a dialogue. And I hope we delivered some hope about carbon fee and dividend, or just carbon fee and green technology infrastructure. And if you take one thing away from this talk, let it please be that same energy to spread these ideas and spread your hope and your knowledge. So thank you for speaking with us today. I've left some of our contact info in case you want to send us an email or anything. So thank you for having us.